Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Personal Finance for Us. And just want to do another short video this morning while I'm out here on the porch having my coffee. Beautiful fall morning. You know, last year, it was this very weekend. I remember because a couple of friends of mine from New York came down to visit me. I hadn't seen in years. And when they got here, it was either October 2nd or October 3rd, and today's the 3rd. They got here that afternoon, it was 99 degrees. So this morning, it's about 48 degrees, so a stark difference a year makes. But anyway, that's not what this video is about. What I did want to talk about was something that I had seen in the Facebook financial group page that I'm on. I think every once in a while when I see some things that maybe we should talk about, I'll probably draw some things there from people's questions. And this one question I saw, and I think so much, we just spend so much money on cars. Transportation costs are usually your second biggest cost, right behind housing. Housing's a little bit more difficult to deal with, but transportation, you know, if you're patient and if you're clever, you can cut transportation costs quicker than you can housing, because obviously housing, like, your options are get roommates, or leave that expensive area for a less expensive one, which is a big deal. So transportation, though, car payments are a killer. I've mentioned before that the average car payment in the United States right now is about $500, and that is a lot of money. So this young lady's question, I think it was a young lady, was, should I refinance my car to lower my payment by $350 a month? There's kind of a lot to unpack in there. First of all, to lower your payment by $350 a month, what the heck was your payment? Was it over $500 a month? Sounds like it. But two things stuck out to me. Was one, just the whole topic or idea of refinancing a car, and then two, the amount of people that were like, yeah, do what you gotta do. I think it's always important to look at finances in the long term. One of the biggest traps that we fall into is thinking about our money in terms of just a monthly payment. And that is a subject worth a video all on its own. But getting back to, should she make this refinance, the only way, and then she said in exchange for also I think it was a higher interest rate. So there's only one way you can have a higher interest rate and a much lower payment, and that is if they're stretching out the payments. There's no way they're just going to say, let's just knock off $5,000 off that top price. So just thinking about the math, they must have been okay with stretching her out even longer. This again goes back to looking beyond the monthly payment. So if she chose to do this option, while in the short term she would tell herself, well, I'm saving $350 a month, one, how much extra over the life of your two car loans, the first loan and the refinance, how much more money over the lifespan of this loan are you paying by doing this? That's the first question. The second thing to keep in mind is cars lose value. So anything that loses value that you have taken a loan out on or purchased with a credit card, whatever, you want to get rid of that debt as soon as possible. Why? Well, for one thing, it's losing value and you're still paying off payments based on the amount you bought it for. So, especially with something mechanical like cars, let's say a couple years down the line, this car breaks down. Now she has a $1,000 repair on top of her monthly payment. Now, with what happens with most Americans when they get to this point, it's like, well, I don't know if this thing's going to be a money sink. How much money is this going to cost me? This is my second, third repair, blah, blah, blah. And then what happens? You start to think, well, I should just get a whole new car. And then the cycle repeats. So that's the first problem. So the second problem is that now you have to, if you find yourself in that scenario, now you have to figure out how are you going to get out of this car loan, right? So now you're running the chance of maybe you owe $5,000 and the car's only worth $2,000. You're just going to get stuck in this financial car web that so many of us find ourselves in. And a third thing actually that stands out to me is if you're willing to do this deal, this suggests that you probably bought a car that you honestly couldn't afford. So this begs the question, is the smartest thing just to get rid of the car and buy a cash car? I think everybody is scared of cash cars, and it's because of that same cycle I had just mentioned, right? It's like you start putting money into parts and putting money into things, and then more things seem like they're breaking down, and then you get flustered and you just want to go get something new off the lot. But you have to think of it this way, right? If I drive off the lot and I'm paying $350 to $600 a month, one, it only delays mechanical issues. A car is a mechanical thing. You are going to have mechanical failure at some point. And then two, okay, $1,000 repair. If I pay the $1,000 and then I don't have an issue for another year, that's another year I'm able to save, and I've only spent $1,000. Whereas if I had taken this car payment in 2 months, I've spent $1,000. So as frustrating as it is to be in and out of the repair shop, it financially in the long run, most of the time, you're better off getting a good cash car, getting good with a good quality mechanic, somebody that you trust to look the vehicle over, someone that's not going to screw you every time you go in there, and trade up in car as you save money. So you got to start with a $2,000 car, drive the wheels off that sucker, then move up to a $5,000 car. You're saving money, you're stacking money, you're figuring out how to increase your income, figuring out what you want to do with your life to make you some money. Now you jump up to a $10,000 car. That's how you do it. Instead, we do the opposite. We get ourselves into a $25,000 car, where we have a $30,000 a year job, and then we wonder where it's gone wrong. And a case in point, I actually sold my old car to my brother-in-law, who, it was a 2008 or 2008, I think, Pontiac G5. And it was good to me. I had actually given it to my great aunt for a while, and it was good to her. So I sold it to him for $2,500, and he's been driving that little car around. I think I sold it to him 2 years ago now, maybe 3 years ago, and it's been fine. The crappy thing was, I think maybe a month or so, maybe a little less after I sold it to him, my husband drives it all the way down to him in Florida. Doesn't have an issue. I think it had about 100, maybe it was 120, 130,000 miles on it. I had never really had an issue. My husband drives it all the way down to Florida, gives it to him. A couple weeks later, we had actually went down there to visit, and he's like, hey, the car's kind of like pulling. So the transmission actually started slipping. But my husband's friend is a really good friend, is a mechanic, and he said, for a GM, I'm surprised it made it this long without a transmission issue. He goes, tell him to just drive it until he can't drive it. And I think in 3 years, he's still driving that car. I don't think he's had the transmission done. But, I actually technically sold it to him for less than what the book value on the car was. And then still, how much money, if he had gone and bought a car off the lot and financed it, and that 3-year time he spent $2,500, still hasn't got the transmission done, which will probably end up being another $2,500, which admittedly is the value of the car. I understand that. But again, if we're looking long term, if he had bought something $15,000 off the lot like I did at his age, how much money would he have spent already in this last 3 years, and still have probably at least another 2-3 years worth of payments on the car, and still might have come across some mechanical issues by now. So this is kind of how you have to think about the car game. So, and this is the problem with extending yourself out, because make no mistake, lenders will let you do it because they're getting paid. What's best for the lender is almost never what's best for the consumer. So this is just kind of how the way you win with automobiles is. I generally would say don't refinance your vehicle. just get it paid off. Either get rid of it, be honest with yourself and say, hey, I bought this car I can't afford, get rid of it, and then trade up later, or get that sub buckle down, bust your behind, and get that sucker paid off, and you'll be so happy that you do. This has been Personal Finance for Us. We're out.